Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will be glad and rejoice in it. Good morning and welcome to another short Sunday service from Killin Parish Church, and a warm welcome to all of you watching from the surrounding villages and indeed further afield as well. Well, lockdown continues, although there's hope that some of it will be relaxed soon. But this week has brought a mixture of good things and humorous things, but also sad stories as well. The financial element to this is beginning to bite, and we're already hearing on the news about people who are being made redundant. And locally here in Killin, the Arjonig Outdoor Centre has been badly hit, and it will be closed for the foreseeable future. So our thoughts and prayers are very much with all the staff there who are involved in that. And further afield as well, those whose jobs are under threat and who are deeply concerned about the future. Alongside that, of course, there are concerns about illness and sickness as well. So there's a lot to think about and certainly a lot to pray for. But let's begin by lighting our candle. The light of the world has come. Jesus is the light of the world. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness will never overcome it. Let's go into a time of quiet and silent prayer when we can remember those who need God's grace at this time. Let's be still. Lord, in your mercy, hear all of our prayers. Let's recite the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power and the glory, forever. Amen. A short reading from the Gospels. And it's from Mark's Gospel, chapter 13. As he came out of the temple, one of his disciples said to him, "Look, teacher, what large stones and what large buildings." Then Jesus asked him, "Do you see these great buildings? Not one stone will be left here upon another. All will be thrown down." When he was sitting on the Mount of Olives opposite the temple, Peter, James, John, and Andrew asked him privately, "Tell us, when will this be, and what will be the sign that all these things are to be accomplished?" Then Jesus began to say to them, "Beware that no one leads you astray. Many will come in my name and say, 'I am he,' and they will lead many astray. When you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed. This must take place, but the end will not yet come. For nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes and famines. but this is but the beginning of the birth pangs. Now you're probably thinking, well, that's a nice cheery reading for a Sunday morning. But it's a reminder of how the Bible emerged out of great dramas. The Jewish people, the history of the Jewish people, is an epic. They have survived so many things. When you think of the story of the Exodus from Egypt, you think of the story of the Babylonian exile. And when we think also what happened after Jesus with the Roman assault and destruction of Jerusalem and of the temple, and with the first Holocaust. The second Holocaust was the Nazis. The first Holocaust of the Jewish people was under the power of Rome, and it was brutal. And in some ways, many of the verses here in this passage in Mark refer to that future event. And out of that, the Jewish people were dispossessed of the land, but they continued. Their faith survived. And out of that episode as well, the Jewish story and the Jewish God was taken to the whole world through the Christian church. Good came out of these dramas. The world was changed as a result. Now, I bought a book recently because with lockdown, there's plenty of time to read. I remember back in the 70s, there was a trilogy by David Attenborough, and the first one was Life on Earth, which was the documentary and, of course, the book that followed. This is the 40th anniversary, and it's been updated with all the latest scientific information since that time. And I've been reading through it, and it's absolutely marvelous. But the story of life on Earth is an epic. And it's an epic that demonstrates that life finds a way. Throughout the evolution of life on Earth, there have been so many hazards and so many disasters and so many trials, but life always finds a way to survive, to sustain itself, and in fact to bring in new and marvelous things. Spring seems to have come, and I don't know about you, but we notice it in the bird song, we notice it in the plant life, and indeed we see it in the newborn lambs in the fields and on the hills. Someone once said that spring can be defined as a time when the sun smiles at the earth and the earth smiles back. Spring, a time of renewal. And certainly for people of faith, it's about renewal too. Now, I've showed you David Attenborough's book. Well, here's the Bible. And this is an epic as well, a story of faith. And if David Attenborough reveals that life finds a way, this book reveals that faith finds a way. No doubt those of you who ever do any hill walking will have noticed there are times when you're scrambling, perhaps near the top of the mountain, and it can be quite barren there. But often, even when you're scrambling, sometimes you'll come across the tiniest of flowers coming out of the rock. And I remember stopping to look at this miracle, and I was caught in the hole, but I looked and it's tiny little flower, beautiful thing, coming out of a tiny little bit where there was some earth in the rock. And I just thought, there's an example that life finds a way, but it's a symbol too that faith finds a way. In so many ways, the Christian faith is about hope. And we need that at this time. Now, the pandemic will pass. And I know that people affected by it will remember that and be scarred by that. But as a society, we've been through great things before. Think of the upheaval of the First World War. But think of the great social change that came after that, regarding workers' rights, the voting system, education. So many good things came out of that. Then the trauma of the Second World War. And of course, after that, again, massive social change. And our health service that's been in our thoughts, at the forefront of our thoughts during these last weeks, that was founded shortly after the Second World War. So we will get through this pandemic, but will there be change, good change, as a result of that? Someone sent me a YouTube clip, a link to a YouTube clip, and it's just entitled The Great Realization. Look it up, The Great Realization. And it's wonderful because it's set as a story or a bedroom scene where a father is giving his son a bedtime story and looking back on the time of the pandemic. And the story describes what life was like before the pandemic and then how it changed afterwards for the better. So have a wee look at that because it's very challenging. One would hope that we will learn things as a result of this pandemic, that we won't just go on as we were. There are environmental challenges. There's issues concerning farming. There's globalization and the realization it's not a total good. There are negatives to that. And there's an awful lot of things about social justice and the need for us to look after our neighbour. Great things are happening because people are beginning to realize the values that matter in life. Let's hope we don't lose that after the pandemic is over. But there is a great realization, and things won't be the same. But that'll be up to you and to me. The story of the scriptures is very much about how a defeat can be turned into a victory, how a loss can become a gain, indeed how despair can become hope. The Jewish people are past masters at doing that, and the Christian church has learned from them to do that. So for us today, there is hope. There is hope that, yes, there are traumas in life, there are disasters, there are huge challenges to individuals, to societies, even global challenges. But God has made human beings with the ability to have resilience, to have courage, to have compassion, to be incredibly creative in the way they respond to things, and above all, to have love. But our faith in God should also empower us to grasp these things, to nurture these things, to embody these things. And that is the challenge for each and every one of us. So the Bible story is not sentimental, it's not romantic or even idealistic, it's very down to earth, and it's real. And this faith that we have is real. It doesn't get any more real than the story of Jesus, the embodiment of love and goodness, and the challenge he gives to each and every one of us, but also the comfort he brings too. Let me close with a prayer that I used a few weeks ago, and one or two people commented how much they appreciated it. Lord, in you we live and move and have our being. In the sunshine of the mountaintop, you are our God. In the dark valley, you are with us. On the seashore, gazing at the horizon, you are our God. In the storms of life, you are with us. In laughter and love, you are our God. In tears and pain, you are with us. In the vigor of youth and health, you are our God. In the limitations of illness, age, and infirmity, you are with us. In the mystery and wonder of life, you are our God. In the womb of death, you are with us. Lord, from the rising of the sun to its setting, from the flowing of the tide to its ebbing, from the flowering of life to its fading, grant us your peace. Amen. A couple of intimations. Firstly, there will be a link after this recording for a song. It's called the Song of Solomon. It's got very good visuals as well. I know that it's sometimes not clear to people where the link is, and you have to get it very quickly, but look out for that, because the song is really worth looking at and just reflecting on. And then secondly, this coming week, we will continue our short reflections from the Manse, Monday to Friday. There will be none on Saturday. The last 2 weeks, we've been looking at the Psalms. The first week was Psalm 23, and then this past week, we were looking at Psalm 1, and indeed, we finished with Psalm 131. And we will continue our journey through some of the Psalms this coming week. And now may the living God be with his people this day and all the days. Thank you for watching. God be with you. Amen.